Welcome back. We are heading into a brand new year, and there's a whole bunch of new laws coming up that you really should know about so you don't break the laws just as the year begins. We've asked one of our resident experts, or an expert, I should say, Mark King, an attorney.
Yes, I do criminal defense.
Criminal defense laws. And there's going to be some laws that affect us this next year that we maybe should know something about.
There are hundreds of new laws every year, and part of that's because certain kinds of activity have never been made illegal or had fines attached to them that should be, or things like that change. But it would be impossible to cover all of them.
Yep.
But there are some that I think are significant and may affect a lot of people.
May pop out at us a little.
Now, one that I find interesting is earbuds or headsets are now going to be illegal if you're driving a car or riding a bicycle.
Wow.
A lot of bicyclists like to listen to music, podcasts, things like that on their earbuds. It creates a safety hazard because they can't hear cars that are coming around.
So if you have your
trucks.
ears plugged and you're riding a bike or driving a car, either one,
You're going to get a ticket.
Okay.
And told not to do that. Electric skateboards. I'm not that familiar with those, but from now on, electric skateboards, you're going to have to be over 16 years old, wear a helmet, and use it on a road with no more than a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Okay. So people, I guess there must be a skateboard you could jump on and it just gets you moving and you're just standing there.
I guess so.
Now, I could never stand on a skateboard. I would fall and hit my head. And so I guess a helmet makes sense.
Well, I would too.
Even adults have to wear a helmet then.
Yes, anybody has to wear a helmet and they have to be over 16. You've probably seen these hoverboards that are so popular. If I were an orthopedist, I'd be giving those things out like candy.
Because it'll build your business up.
Oh, yeah, a lot of broken bones, things
Okay,
like
so you
that.
got to wear a helmet. Probably can't wear earbuds with those either, I'd imagine. If they don't have a law for that, they probably will by next year.
I haven't read about that yet, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
There are some weapons changes that people are usually interested in. Oh, what's going on with weapons?
Do I get to keep my gun, my handgun?
Yes, you get to keep your handgun, but even if you have a concealed weapons permit, no more concealed weapons on college campuses in California as of tomorrow.
Wow, that's a big deal.
It can be.
Yeah. There's some professors out there that feel that they should have a weapon in case somebody comes in and starts doing a mass shooting or something so they could protect themselves.
Well, there may be, and I don't know if there's an exception in the law for that. It's like there's an exception for business owners.
I hope those people
I
hope those people that do the mass shootings, I hope they hear us about this law. Don't break the law and take that gun on campus.
Well, not concealed. I don't know. Open carry isn't a thing in California you can do, so I guess you're out of luck either way.
Well, some people feel the CCW, the concealed carry permit, that it means you can go anywhere with it at any time and even have it in your car. But I don't think you could drive a car with a loaded gun even if you have the permit. And now you can't go on the college campus? Is it just college?
Any college campus. Okay. I don't know about schools. It wouldn't surprise me if they've already been outlawed in schools. You can't walk into a courthouse or a jail with a weapon.
Even the police officers cannot.
Right.
They have to check them at the door. So.
Exactly. They have gun lockers at the doors to courthouses and jails for that purpose. Now, another law that could be rather significant. If a family member or someone in law enforcement thinks that someone is dangerous and violent, they can petition the court for a 21-day order to prohibit that person from possessing a firearm without that person knowing about it. So they can go to court, get a paper that says you can't have a firearm and show it to them and have a firearm taken away from them for 21 days while a determination is made if that person is a danger to themselves or others.
Well, some of these problems with firearms have come from people who have lived a normal life and then somehow they have a break or something happens.
Yes.
And they're going and buying a gun and shooting their spouse or something, going on.
Or innocent persons.
Or innocent people. So
right.
That law, no doubt, is set up to protect against that.
And I hope that it would. Now, one problem that you see not only in California, all over the country, is a lot of these toy guns. Sometimes they're called airsoft or pellet guns.
They look
a lot like a real handgun. Now, they come with a little orange thing on the end of the barrel that would signify this is a toy. A lot of people take those off. Now, I don't know why you would, but some people who want to look tough, they want to look like they're carrying a gun.
Kids take those off.
Exactly. Well, as of Friday, toy guns are going to have more features designed to signify that they're a toy, including fluorescent trigger guards.
Wow.
That would be, in theory, I think, harder to
So not just the tip of the gun being orange, but the sides and handles are going to be fluorescent.
some kind of fluorescent thing to let everybody know that, hey, this is a toy gun. Now, another toy that a lot of people like, and I can see why they would, it looks like a lot of fun, are the drones. That you can get to fly, and you get a camera, you get all kinds of neat video.
I asked for one for Christmas, and I did not get it. I wanted the $3,000 model.
Well, they look like a lot of fun.
They look like, yeah.
As of tomorrow, as of Friday, January 1st, you cannot fly a drone over any emergency site. Let's say there's been an auto accident.
Right.
You can't fly a drone over that, especially wildfires. There have been some problems with firefighting people in the air.
They've been trying to drop the fire repellent from an airplane, and these drones are flying through.
Right.
A lot of them belong to the news agencies.
So it is now a criminal offense to fly a drone over a wildfire or another emergency site.
Now, are these all California laws?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to do your drone over an emergency situation, move to Nevada.
Or do it and call me.
Call your lawyer.
Yeah.
He'll probably get you some freedom of speech provision or something.
You also can't fly them over jails, prisons, or schools. And also another change in the law is if an emergency personnel, if they see a drone over an emergency site, like a wildfire or some other emergency site, and they shoot it down, they're immune from any penalty from that. They can shoot it down and not face any penalty. Many large buildings that are open to the public will now be required to have heart defibrillators on site.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know exactly what the criteria is, but anybody who has a building that's open to the public, I would suggest they call their insurance carrier, because their insurance carrier, I'm sure, is up to date on exactly what the restrictions are, what the laws are, what the parameters.
Now, they're what are called these semi-automatic defibrillators. You go up to somebody and you activate the device, and it starts talking to you, and it says, put a sticker here with a wire and here, and the defibrillator reads the person's heartbeat and will zap them if they need it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and I was teaching in a college last year, and I told my students, I showed them all where the defibrillator was. And I said, whoever saves my life, you get an automatic A. Anyway, it's a good idea to have them everywhere.
Pizza delivery people ought to have those too.
They should have them.
The pizzas are so big,
And I
tasty.
saw one attached to a drone in a YouTube video, a defibrillator. You have an emergency. Before the emergency vehicle can get there, the drone delivers a defibrillator. So,
well, that's smart.
now I have a little business here. We have about 4 or 5 people that work here. Am I going to be required to have a defibrillator?
I don't think so. The thing that I read talked about certain kinds of large buildings where public events are held, things like that. So if you have 5 or 6 people, I wouldn't think you'd be required to have one.
Well,
but
guys
let's
like
say I've got a banquet hall or
Yeah.
something like that.
Makes sense to have
I
one.
would certainly think that would.
Well, guys
fall
like
under
you
the
and I in our 50s, I guess you're in your
Yes.
50s, like we
Yes.
should probably carry them around with us.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea, and there might be some people who do that.
Yeah, let's pass that law.
Now, this one kind of surprised me and sort of concerns me. Smart TV manufacturers, as of January 1st, are going to be required to notify users that their TV could be recording their voices and sending them back to the manufacturers.
Wow.
I didn't know that was going on.
I didn't either.
But obviously it is going on, or there wouldn't be a law, and the law also prohibits these manufacturers from using those recordings in any way for advertising purposes or to sell to somebody for advertising. I didn't know that
I don't think they would have made the law if it wasn't going on. See, I shout at my TV a lot whenever that Fox News is on. I'm always yelling and shaking my fist. They could be listening to that. That could come back to bite me.
They could be. And as of January 1st, they're supposed to notify you.
At least I'd be notified. I'll curb my comments then.
Have you seen the artificial turf that so many people are putting in their homes and businesses, things like that? Some looks really good.
Yeah.
But there are some counties and cities that have restrictions against that because it doesn't meet their standards for a certain look. As of January 1st, city and county governments are prohibited from enforcing any fines for artificial turf.
Artificial turf, because it helps with the water, the drought situation. I would imagine.
Exactly.
You don't have to wash it.
And state law would trump the city or county law.
State law trumps city and county. Now, let's say somebody does break one of these laws, and they didn't even know it's a law. You know, you're flying your drone over the emergency situation, they could be arrested. Who would they call if you're arrested for breaking one of these new laws?
Well, you should always call a criminal defense attorney.
Like you.
Like me, yes.
Great
for help.
segue.
Not knowing what the law is not an excuse under the law,
Okay.
with rare exception. But, arguments can be made about a lot of different things, and no two situations are alike. And some people get a slap on the wrist as opposed to the book thrown at them if they have never been in trouble before, maybe had a reason to not think that it was against the law, even though it was. Something's going to happen, but it's probably not going to be severe.
Right. Well, if you have never gotten in trouble again and you stumble and you break one of these laws, and you realize, oh, I did something wrong, and you want to just fess up and confess and do your, take a rap on the wrist, shouldn't you call a lawyer anyway?
Well, you shouldn't ever fess up to something that you did if nobody's. That's not a very good idea.
Okay.
If you did something that you think is wrong, go light a candle at a church or make a donation to a charity, something like that. There's no reason to call the cops and say, hey, I broke the law.
If you're thinking of doing that, call Mark King. But if you do get caught doing something, and now, by the way, tonight is New Year's. This show is broadcasting live now, but it's going to rebroadcast all weekend. So maybe it's too late for some people when they see this. But let's say it's New Year's, and you have a couple drinks. Now, I'm a small guy. 2 drinks would probably impair me. I don't know what the laws are now. But let's say I get pulled over by a cop. What should I do?
Well, you don't have to take a breathalyzer test. That's voluntary. You can refuse that, the preliminary test. If you don't take the actual breathalyzer test or a blood test, they can treat that as if it were a DUI. But what I would recommend, if you're unfortunate enough to get pulled over in a situation like that, tell them right up front you want to talk to an attorney.
Okay.
You want an attorney there. The best approach, though, would be to use a service like AAA has a free service tonight. There's a place in town called We Be Sober that does a great job.
You're saying avoid getting pulled over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You do not want a DUI. Your auto insurance rates are going to go up by about 3 times.
Wow. Yeah, no, I've known several people who've done it. They're not drinkers or drunks.
Right.
It's just, because those people know how to drive, when those who drink all the time know how to do that. But those who just do it once or twice a year, they're the ones getting caught. And it absolutely changes their lives. I've seen it over and over. So
no one ever intends to drive while intoxicated. At least I've never met anybody who did.
Now, if they say, we're going to give you a test, you got to blow in this thing, you can say, I want to talk to my attorney.
Say that. The preliminary test you can refuse, but if there's 2 breathalyzer tests that are given. One's a preliminary, the other one is the real one. You can refuse the real one if you want, but you're going to get a DUI on the basis of refusing that. But you have a choice on the actual test between a breathalyzer or a blood test.
Okay.
Now, the blood test, it's going to be a little while typically before they draw blood unless they have a phlebotomist set up at a checkpoint. But
could that work in your advantage if the time?
There's good and bad, because even after you start drinking, after you stop drinking, rather, the alcohol that is in your stomach is still in the process of going into your bloodstream.
I see.
So you could be at 0.07 when you were pulled over, and then by the time you get your blood test, in theory, you could be at 0.09.
Now, is saying, I want to wait to talk to my attorney, is that refusing? Is that the same as refusing?
No, it's not the same as refusing.
What if you can't reach your attorney for a couple days?
Well, you don't have to talk to them about anything, but you would have to take an actual test to see if you were intoxicated or not. But you don't have to do the roadside sobriety test things. People have a hard time. Police officers have a difficult time doing that when they're stone cold sober.
Really?
So,
and what if you haven't been drinking and you go through one of those and they say, oh, I think you've been drinking. Should you take the test?
Well, you have to take the actual test. Okay. But I wouldn't talk to them about anything. I wouldn't tell them that you hadn't been drinking. Say, I want to talk to my attorney before I tell you anything. Mm-hmm. Take the test that you're required to by law, but if you haven't been drinking, it's going to show 0 alcohol. Now, technically, you could be driving drunk on a drug, even a prescription drug. Right. I had one client who got into an accident. He was sleep driving on Ambien.
Wow.
Had 0 alcohol in his system, was on Ambien, was not aware that he was doing anything. He was not conscious on many levels, but he was driving his car, hit a tree. he wakes up standing in his neighbor's yard with people yelling at him, and he's in his pajamas, and he can't figure out what in the heck is going on. And he looks over and sees his car inside his neighbor's tree.
He's in his pajamas. He was literally sleep driving.
Oh, yes, yes. And people do sleep drive. You
Got
can
up,
Google
thought he
it.
was going to work or whatever, and who knows?
He was asleep. Like some people sleepwalk. Some people will get in their cars under the influence of Ambien and drive.
Okay, so let's say this is airing now Saturday or Sunday, and somebody sees it, and they went out on New Year's, and they got pulled over, and they got a DUI citation. Mm-hmm. Is it too late now to call the lawyer?
Oh, no. Call an attorney, and you'll want to do that very soon, because there are two different actions that take place with a DUI. One is a DMV hearing as to the status of your driver's license. Okay. Then there are criminal penalties. You have 10 days from the time you're pulled over to request a DMV hearing. And you always want to request that hearing, even if you ultimately decide to concede and not go, because you get your police reports a lot faster then, and the attorney can see what's going on much faster if you request a DMV hearing.
DMV hearing could keep you driving to work or something like that.
Yeah, well, yes. The DMV is going to be the ones to determine whether or not you can drive. But you have to request that hearing within 10 days of the time you get pulled over. You're given paperwork about that, so it's pretty clear. Okay. But some people still don't. Okay. I wish they did.
Yeah. Well, we talked about how life-changing a DUI is.
Yes.
It's not like maybe if you get a speeding ticket, you might or might not call an attorney, but this DUI thing is so serious. I had a friend who's out at Roding Park in his orange jumpsuit, not Roding, but Kearney Park in his orange jumpsuit the other day, and just happened to be bumping into friends driving by and stuff. It's a year-long thing. It's not, the DUI isn't over in a couple of weeks. It goes for the whole year, I guess, or longer.
Well, you've got restrictions on your driver's license for 5 months, but you've also, the increase in your insurance rates is going to last, I think, more than a year. You're going to have to go to a DMV education class where you sit in a classroom for, I think, maybe a total of 18 hours where they say don't drink and drive. Yeah.
If it's an hour a week, it's a lot of weeks.
And it's a big hassle.
But something really that life-changing, you should consult an attorney.
And worst of all, the biggest reason to avoid doing it is some people get hurt or killed. Again, by people who are good people who would never intend to harm anyone. They never intend to drive while intoxicated, but they don't realize they're intoxicated at the time, and they don't realize how impaired they are, and it leads to incredible tragedy. Mm-hmm. If I ruled the world, every motor vehicle in the world would have an interlock ignition device that you'd have to pass a breathalyzer test before you can start the vehicle.
It starts up. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I use Uber and Lyft, two great services, and I have an account with each, and it costs me $12 to get home, where a taxi costs me $35 to get home, and a DUI would cost me tens of thousands of dollars.
Thousands and thousands of dollars. So. Those are good services. There's a place in town called We Be Sober.
I think they're doing it for free almost, for a nominal fee. Yeah.
Very nominal fee. They bring two people in a vehicle out. One person drives your vehicle wherever you want it to go, while the other person follows, so your vehicle's home. It's not left in a parking lot. Right. But there are ways to avoid, and probably the best way, bar owners wouldn't like me saying this, but the best way is to do your drinking at home.
Do your drinking at home.
And that way...
We're encouraging everybody to go out to the Tower District and spend money in the Tower District this weekend and every weekend, and call We Be Sober or Lyft or one of those services to get you home and go safely, because people aren't making good judgments when they've been drinking in the first place. Any other laws? Anything we got to touch on?
Well, there's some new laws that affect law enforcement. For one, police in California now will have to have a warrant to search the texts, emails, and the GPS data on your cell phone, your laptop, or even if it's stored on the cloud. Okay. Previously, they could just do that without any warrant at all. Now they'll have to have a warrant to look at that information, and I think that's an important protection for the privacy of citizens. Police also are on notice as of January 1st that by 2018 they have to have systems in place to record and report the perceived racial identity or ethnicity of anyone they pull over, the reason for pulling that person over, and what the outcome was of the police contact. We hear about racial profiling. Police departments in California now will have to keep these records based on racial identity or ethnicity, and they'll have to report them starting in 2018. So that would mean anybody in the public could go see, well, Are the cops picking on minorities?
Right.
And they could go see that for themselves. The police also this year have new restrictions on making sure that any video or audio recorded during a stop, whether it be on a body camera or an audio recorder or things like that, are stored properly so that they aren't destroyed or accidentally lost
erased, yeah.
Later, so that everybody can have access to them. I wish every law enforcement officer had a body camera. It would clear up a lot of
stuff, yeah.
stuff on both sides.
Yeah.
It would. It really
Could
would.
protect the police officer as well as the
Absolutely.
citizen. So.
Yeah, it could protect both. And Governor Brown has signed a law, too, that takes effect January 1st that targets illegal marijuana farms. Obviously, illegal marijuana farms, by their definition, are already illegal.
Yep.
But in addition to criminal penalties, these folks can now face fines of up to $40,000 for any waste from their operation that spills into a river or a stream.
I see. If they're spraying pesticides or something that needs to be cleaned up, I see.
Or if they remove a tree or kill any wildlife, it's a $10,000 fine. So they're just trying to step up enforcement against illegal marijuana farms.
Okay.
There's already been some problems with rivers and streams being diverted by dams created by these people.
We are getting a signal from Michael, our technician, that we got to get on with the show. Mark King, everybody. What if somebody gets in some trouble? Can they call you and you'll talk to them about it?
Absolutely. It doesn't cost a penny to talk to me. Free to talk, and I'll give them my assessment of the situation. I can never promise anybody any particular result because it's impossible for me to predict what a judge or a jury or a prosecutor is going to do. All I can promise people is that I tell them the truth and I'm going to work hard. But it doesn't cost anything for me to assess what's going on. There are some times on minor offenses when people call me that I recommend actually that they don't hire me or any other attorney. I tell them what's going to happen.
Save your money
and you can go through this. This is what's going to happen whether I'm there or not on some minor things. And that calms some nerves right there.
Now, I think we saw your email, mark@markking.com.
MarkKingLaw.com.
Mark@markKingLaw.com.
Yes.
Email them your question, or can they phone you up at the office?
Yes, 237-8880.
237-8880. And Mark King, if you didn't write the number down fast enough, if you need him, you're watching the rerun, and you're in trouble from New Year's Eve, call us to Cinder Valley Talk. We'll put you in touch with Mark King. We'll be back with more later.